Hello guys, today we have one of our partners from the Oregon Department of Forestry, Kelly Niles, here to read us a book.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Captain Cole. Appreciate that. Welcome. So today's story is about Smokey Bear. And in order to read this story, I brought a special guest with me. Can you come on in, sir?
What? Whoa!
Smokey's here! Woo!
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hi, Smokey. How are you doing? Got a chair for you right here. Right on. Thanks for joining us today, Smokey. I know it's been hot out in the woods. Hopefully you got some good berries for lunch and are doing good, so we'll go through our story. Okay, the true story of Smokey Bear. Okay, this is the story of Smokey Bear and how he won his fame and how he found a wonderful job to do and how he got his name. When he was a roly-poly cub, he lived with his mother, as bear cubs do, in a cave that seemed very cozy to them. It was a pleasant home. This cave was in a mountainy forest in the state of New Mexico. He didn't have a name, but he didn't need one. He knew when his mother called him, and he knew her call meant that he should come. If he didn't answer, she would cuff him gently because she expected him to mind. There were other bear cubs in the same forest, living with their mothers too. They all had the same lessons to learn: to mind, to come when they were called, and to climb a tree whenever danger threatened. But the lessons they liked the best of all were those about things to eat. They learned which berries were tastiest, how to drink from a brook. They learned how to reach into a hollow tree for a paw full of beeswax and sweet dripping honeycomb, and how to outrun the bees. They learned to turn over fallen logs and scoop up tasty bugs underneath. They learned to fish as they stood on a rock beside the stream. That sounds pretty awesome, Smokey. What a great childhood. They learned to live with other animals too, for there were friends and neighbors all around. Then there were the does, the gentle mother deer with her spiny-legged baby fawns. The fawns, like the bear cubs, had lessons to learn: to watch this way and that, listening and looking with cocked ears and soft dark eyes, and to freeze into a breathless, shade-dappled log if danger came too close. Other woodland neighbors were the wildcats, who lived in nearby rocky caves. At night, the wildcats crept silently through the forest, hunting for their food. There were lessons the wildcat kits had to learn too, of watching and waiting and timing their leaps, all the tricks of the hunt. And the branches above ran the chattering squirrels, busy in a jolly-sounding life of their own. They chattered noisily among themselves as they gathered their stores of nuts. And on the ground below and under the ground, in a whole world of tunnels and burrows and nests, lived the soft little rabbits and chipmunks and mice, diving out of sight at a dangerous sound, calling out warnings to their friends. There were birds in the forest too. They often snatched berries just ahead of the bear cubs' greedy paws. The birds filled the forest with twitterings and chirpings as they built their nest and raised their young and bounced and flew from branch to stem in a constant search for food. So the forest was never quiet. There was always the whisper of the pines and the chattering and murmuring of leafy trees. There was the bubbling of the brook bouncing over polished stones and the creak of branches bending in the breeze. And there were all the little animal sounds, the scurryings and scamperings and light-footed pattings, which the cub came to know. He knew the danger warnings too, the chirpings and squeakings and twitters and barks. But one day, that forest in New Mexico was alive with sound. Every kind of animal, it seemed, was sounding its danger warning, but the warnings could scarcely be heard. For through the trees came a terrible roaring that deafened the little bear's ears. Then through the trees came a cloud of thick blackness that hurt his eyes. He knew what his mother would tell him to do. When danger threatens, climb a tree. So up the tree he went. Below him, the animals went racing by. The does with their fawns, the wildcats with their kits, the rabbits and the mice and the chipmunks with their young trying to hurry along. The birds flew by, screaming that the flames were coming, but he just clung to his tree. All around him, the forest fire roared and crackled. Flames licked at his shaggy fur and singed his tender paws, but he closed his eyes and clung to that tree. When he opened his eyes again and looked around after the roaring had stopped, He could scarcely believe his eyes. The fire had passed, but instead of the cool, dim, fragrant woods, all around him stood hundreds of ugly, blackened sticks, with smoke still curling up from some of them. He felt very lonely. He did not see another animal around, but soon he heard voices, and some strange big animals came tramping through the woods as tall as his mother when she walked on her hind feet the way they did. They were men, as we know it, but he didn't because he had never seen a man. The men were forest rangers, which is a fine thing to be. The men had just been working very hard putting out the fire in the woods. "Well, look who's here," one ranger said, and he reached up and took that bear cub in his arms. "What's your name, fellow? Smokey?" And from that day on, that was his name. Though Smokey could not understand the words, he knew the voice was kind. He knew the water felt good in his throat when he drank, and he knew that whatever the men were putting on his paws was making him feel cool and better right away. He liked the food the men fed him from their packs. So Smokey curled up in the forest ranger's arms and he went fast asleep. When he woke up, everything was strange again. He was in a box that was to be his bed, soft with old blankets and a piece of rug. He was at the game warden's house. Smokey had a fine time there at the game warden's house. He liked to sit with the warden and his family and to play with the warden's little girl. So soon it was time to find a better home for Smokey, a home really planned for a bear. It's a good story, isn't it? So off in an airplane, Smokey flew from New Mexico all the way to Washington, D.C. There he has a nice home in a national zoo where children come to see him every day. He has a whole set of new friends and neighbors, strange animals he had never seen before. But he feels at home with them. There are wildebeest, lions, leopards, kangaroos, and birds of every color in the sky. But even with a nice new home and new friends, Smokey never forgot the forest far away and all his friends and neighbors there. He never forgot that terrible day when they all had lost their homes. And Smokey wanted to do something about it so that it would never happen again. Now all the time he was thinking these thoughts, Smokey was growing up. He grew into a fine big bear, and the bigger he grew, the more he wanted a good big job of work to do. He remembered the firefighting forest rangers and how good they had treated him. That's what I'd like to do, Smokey decided. I'd like to be a forest ranger. I'd like to fight fires in the forest all over this land of ours, and I wouldn't wait to put them out. I'd fight them before they start. So Smokey went off to one of his forest rangers. "I'd like a job," he said, and he told the ranger he wanted to help keep the forest safe from fires. The forest ranger said, "Well, that's fine." And he said, "How do these fires start anyway?" Smokey asked. Then the forest ranger told him the sad story that many fires are started through carelessness. Some people driving through the woods throw matches of cigarettes out the windows of their cars. Some people camping in the woods leave some ashes in a campfire, still just a little bit of glow. And slowly that tiny flame feeds onto the dry carpet of the forest floor and spreads into a terrible fire. Some people walking in the woods drop a match or cigarette or just flick an ash into dry leaves. Or people living near woods decide to burn some trash in their backyard on a windy day. The wind carries just one burning bit, whirls it overhead, and drops it down among the dry leaves of the woods. Then whoosh, with a crackle that grows to a roar, all the nests of the woodland friends are gone. "That's terrible," said Smokey. "What can I do?" "You can get the boys and girls all over the land to help," said the forest ranger. "Teach them the safety rules to keep the forest green. Have them be junior forest rangers and teach their parents too. That is a fine big job you can do." So when Smokey left the office, he wore a uniform, and he's been helping to prevent forest fires ever since. Well, he went back to tell his friends at the zoo. There were 2 bear cubs there, as round and roly-poly as Smokey had been when he was young. "We want to be junior forest rangers," they said. "We'll help you keep the forest green." Smokey said, "That's fine, you come along with me." So along went the cubs with Smokey the bear, and wherever they went, they talked to boys and girls. The bears told the boys and girls what a lovely place a forest is. Fragrant and dark green with branches overhead, a soft crunchy carpet underfoot, and busy with breezes rustling through the trees. They told them what a lively place the forest is, full of animal families and birds. "We hope the animals and birds won't ever have to run from a fire," said Smokey and the cubs. "We hope their forest won't ever be burned to a wasteland of charred stumps." "How can we help?" asked the boys and girls. "Well, here is how," said Smokey, and he taught them his simple rules for keeping the forest green. Everywhere boys and girls learn these rules. They taught them to their parents too. So that's the story of Smokey Bear and how he won his fame and how he found a wonderful job to do and how he got his name. And it is the story of Smokey's friends all over this land of ours. If you want to be Smokey's friend, just turn the page and learn the rules. So Smokey always says, remember, forest fires are dangerous, follow my rules. So S is Smokey's friends don't play with matches. M is make sure you have an adult help you build any fire. O is for only burn papers or leaves when there is no wind. K is know that your fire is completely out before you leave. E is every grown-up should be careful with cigarettes and matches. And Y is you can prevent forest fires. The end. Cole, I want to thank you for having Smokey and I here today.
Thanks for coming, Smokey.
We always appreciate your help out there in the woods, you and your crew, when we do get a fire. But Smokey, I think we're going to go out and see if we can make sure that the forest is good, okay?
Thanks again, Smokey.
Thank you. Yep, social distancing, Smokey. Good job. Remember, only you can prevent wildfires.